in 10 minutes. First, welcome to another college football podcast. If you love college football, you love arguing about it, you love screaming about it, planning for it, spending unimaginable money on tickets, this is your channel. I hope you'll subscribe to it. I hope you'll pass it along to your friends. That's a really good way to help it grow. And it's free to subscribe. So let's dive right in. The 2024 Texas Longhorns made it to the college football playoff, made a nice run. And Steve Sarkisian enjoyed his most successful season as the Longhorns coach. This year, they do lose a lot of experienced talent. That's the way I'd like to put that, because Texas recruits unbelievably well. And they have really good players sitting on the bench that could start anywhere, but they lose a lot of experience. Now, on the defense is where they return most of their talent. Most of the talent they have that they had last season comes back on defense. Now, they do lose guys like Andrew Makuba. They lose, I think it's Jade Barron. Please forgive me if I just mispronounced his name. They lose a few others, but overall they return, if my memory serves me correct, like 7 starters on the defense. Pete Kwiatkowski, in going into one of his multiple years at Texas with Steve Sarkisian, I think his defense is going to help keep them in games this year while their offense figures out their identity. Once again, Texas has a lot of really good football players sitting on the bench and guys who were acclimated to real life, real game play. But let's talk about some of the players they lost last year. Of course, Quinn Ewers is gone, and we know that sets up things for Arch Manning. We'll get into Arch in just a second. But Isaiah Bond, Jaden Blue, Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm, the incredible tight end, and most of the offensive line is gone. So the experience that was there is gone. And so not only do you have Arch taking over, you have Arch taking over with a new offensive line. I believe it's something like 4 out of 5 starters are gone on the offensive line. Then, of course, losing guys like Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond, I mean, that impacts you no matter how well you recruit. And, of course, Gunnar Helm made a name for himself over the past few years in college football. And let's just talk about who they do have coming back on the offensive side of the football. Quintrevion Weissner. This guy was the leading rusher for the team last year. He had over 1,000 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. You have Jarek Gibson. He will be taking the field, 377 yards. Of course, Arch Manning can run the football. That's something that he brings to the table. Even though he's a bigger guy, he can move. Let's talk about Ryan Wingo. Ryan Wingo is one of those guys who was just right out of high school, was already making a name for himself. Rushing, believe it or not, they gave him the ball 5 times. He rushed for 100 yards. Ryan Wingo is also their leading receiver. Well, I say leading receiver. He's the only one that's left. He was on down. So Golden was the leading receiver. Next up was Gunnar Helm, then Isaiah Bond, and then Ryan Wingo. Ryan Wingo, he had 472 yards receiving. DeAndre Moore is back at the wide receiver spot. So when you're looking at who they have coming back, as I said, on the offense, they only have 4 total starters returning. So let's talk about Arch Manning for a second. If you've watched college football as long as I've watched it, I was born in early 80s. When I really got into college football was in the 90s up to this point. There are those players who you hear about for the entirety of their time at a school. Arch Manning, what's interesting about him is the entire time he's been at the school, he's been sitting on the bench, waiting his time. Now, of course, that NIL money made him patient. And I don't blame him, by the way. I'm not knocking him. If anybody's like, hey, you're knocking this guy for making a lot of money, I'm just going to tell you, no, I'm not. It's a new day in college football. But my concerns, here's what I'm going to tell you before I go over the schedule. My concerns with Arch Manning is that first, the expectation is so high for him because of his pedigree that even if he does really well, it may not be good enough in everyone else's eyes. Then there's the other side of account that he could do okay, but because he's a Manning, they may say he's unbelievable and incredible. So there's always going to be extremes. My thoughts on Arch Manning is the offensive line has to protect him because last year their offensive line was incredible. And the running game was, they could just beast people. Between the wide receivers playing well and having the incredible offensive line, it made playing or strategizing for Texas's defense very difficult, or Texas's offense extremely difficult. Well, all of those people I've named 3 or 4 times now are gone. And having a brand new guy, no matter how good he is or whatever your thoughts are on Arch Manning, it just really doesn't size up well for me for a guy who's taking over the reins of this team. Again, Texas recruits well. They'll hit the portal if they need to and get guys that they want, and they have the money to spend. I just look at this and I'm just saying, I think that their defense will have to be the one that keeps them in games until they get an identity, and not really an identity, just a cohesiveness across the offense. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to take a look. We're going to take a look at Texas' schedule. Obviously, they kick off against Ohio State. The last time they played was the college football playoff. Ohio State beat them. Ohio State lost a lot of talent. Again, experienced talent. They still have Jeremiah Smith, unbelievable Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. We could keep going with some returners there. Caleb Downs on the defense. Here's what you need to know about this game. Both teams, they've lost a lot. Both teams will have a new quarterback coming out. I know Arch has played. I think Julian Sayin is the starter for Ohio State at this point. Both teams recruit very well. Both teams spends a lot of money. This game is in Columbus. It's a toss-up for me with this game. I lean towards Ohio State. Why? Because of Columbus. I really believe that Ohio State has the edge in this one, but it's a toss-up. San Jose State, you're going to beat them like a drum. It's in Austin. You're going to play UTEP. You're going to beat them like a drum in Austin. You'll play Sam Houston in Austin. 3 easy games in Austin. You'll beat the crap out of them. You're going to play at Florida. Let me tell you, Florida has one of, if not the toughest schedule in the country. That's Florida and Oklahoma that has that. You're playing them at Florida. This will be a big game. This would be a big game for them to win and to beat you. I know that's like, duh, but I'm just saying it's a big game for them. But they have so many big games. I'm just thinking it's going to overwhelm them. I know DJ Lagway is really talented, but I think you get the win at Florida. Let's talk about Oklahoma. Yes, the Red River rivalry. You beat them last year. You beat the crap out of them. The seat's getting hot for Brent Venables. I just don't think they have enough to take you at this point, and I see you beating Oklahoma. Kentucky has hemorrhaged talent. They're a seller team for the SEC for this upcoming season. I see you beating them. Mississippi State, they're terrible. You should beat them. Vanderbilt, they had a really good story last year. They even played close with you. I think you beat them definitely in Austin. This is the game that I would be keeping my eye on, obviously, at Georgia. Georgia, they've lost players, but of course they recruit extremely well. They have Kirby Smart still on the sideline. They have a lot of talent. This game's in Athens, and I'm just telling you, I believe most likely you're going to lose this one. But I'm not saying it's totally out of the realm of possibility of you beating Georgia in Athens, but they're really tough there. You play Arkansas, you should beat Arkansas in Austin, and then Texas A&M. It's a rivalry. You're going to play them at home. I really think that you take control of that game and you beat them. So I'm seeing you lose only 2 games. And the games of concern is A&M, Florida. that, those are two games that you would have to keep an eye on. But overall, I see you going 10-2. You'll go to the college football playoff. Most likely, you'll make it to the SEC championship, and I mean, you would stand a chance there, especially if you're playing Georgia again. Maybe you could get them the second try around. So I went just a little over 10 minutes, but let me know what you think about my preview of Texas. Of course, I can't preview them from top to bottom so in depth in 10 minutes, but to give you an overview of who Texas has, who they're playing, who's gone, who's coming back, and their general schedule. Let me know what I missed. Let me know who I should be paying attention to. Let me know what your concerns are. Folks, I hope you'll pass this along. If you want to see the channel grow, if you love talking college football,